Welcome back. Remember those wild biophyci concepts we got into last time from Nursery of the Gods?
How could we forget?
Well, get ready for more because in this deep dive, we're going even deeper into James Cobben's Nursery of the Gods.
That's right, we are. Chapter 4 this time.
Chapter 4. It's like he drops this bomb on us in the last chapter that our bodies might be capable of, like all this crazy sci stuff.
Yeah,
And now we're diving into the deep end of the pool.
precisely. It's like our bodies have this whole secret language, this hidden world of awareness going on beneath the surface.
It really is. And to think, this has been going on right under our noses this whole time. So where do we even begin with this biosci thing?
Well, Cobbin kicks things off with some seriously mind-bending research on what's called bioprecognition.
Bioprecognition, okay.
Basically, the idea that our cells might be able to react to events before they even happen, like having a sixth sense, but at a cellular level.
Whoa. Okay, that sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right. But there's actual science to back it up. Dean Radin, a big name in sci research, he's done all these studies looking at how our bodies respond to future events.
I can already see where this is going. Like, you know how your heart races when you're about to get startled or something?
Exactly. But it's more than just that gut feeling. Radin did this one study where people looked at a bunch of different images on a screen.
Okay.
Some were neutral, just everyday stuff, but others, they were meant to be really intense, like super emotional or even disturbing.
So like the good old jump scare, but with pictures?
Kind of, but here's the thing. The order of the pictures was totally random,
Oh, wait.
and they hooked people up to these sensors to track their skin conductance, basically, how much they were sweating.
Okay, so they were measuring those subtle changes in the body that happen when you react to something.
Exactly. And get this, people started showing these stress responses seconds before the emotional images even popped up.
No way. Seriously. Their bodies were reacting to something they hadn't even seen yet. How is that even possible?
That's the million-dollar question. It suggests that maybe, just maybe, there's a part of us, whether it's subconscious or happening at the cellular level, that somehow tapped into something beyond our normal understanding of time.
Okay, that is wild.
Yeah.
So it's not just about our bodies predicting danger.
Right.
It's like we might have this early warning system for anything that could trigger a strong emotional response.
Wow.
But if our cells are capable of this kind of precognitive activity, what else might be going on that we're totally unaware of?
That's the really exciting part, because it opens up a whole can of worms
Doesn't it?
about what else might be possible. Like, for example, the placebo effect.
Okay, the placebo effect. That's where you take a sugar pill thinking it's the real deal medicine, and then somehow you start feeling better.
Exactly.
But how does that tie into this whole biosci idea?
Well, the placebo effect, it really highlights the incredible power our minds have over our physical well-being.
That's true. You definitely hear about that a lot.
Yeah. If simply believing something can trigger a physiological response, like a response in your actual physical body enough to mimic real medicine, it's going to mean there's a super strong connection between what we think, what we believe, and what's going on at a cellular level, right?
Okay, yeah. So what you're saying is our beliefs, they might actually be influencing our bodies at their very core. That's pretty wild if you ask me.
It is wild, and it happens more often than you might think. The American Psychological Association did this review of a ton of studies, like trials for antidepressants, some of the most commonly prescribed drugs out there.
Oh, wow, antidepressants.
Yeah, and they found that a huge percentage of the positive effects people were reporting, the benefits they thought they were getting from the actual medication, well, those same improvements were also happening in the group of people who were just taking a placebo.
Seriously, wait, how much are we talking here? Like a small percentage?
We're talking 80%.
80%. So the vast majority of what people were experiencing was basically all in their heads.
It really highlights how intertwined the mind and body really are. And there are even crazier cases out there. There's this book, Irreducible Mind.
Okay.
It talks about this patient who had really advanced cancer, and he was convinced that this new drug they were testing at the hospital, that was his only shot, even though they said he couldn't be part of the trial.
I know. Was he not eligible or something?
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, but his doctor, I guess he felt bad and gave in. And the amazing thing is that within days of getting the first injection, the guy's tumors shrunk, like in half. He was up and walking around feeling like $1,000,000.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. The power of the mind, right?
Right. Except for one thing, the drug was just water.
Wait, you're kidding. You mean to tell me all that healing, it was just a placebo effect?
Yep. This guy's belief in this treatment, it was so strong that it created this potent, even though temporary, healing response. But then you can guess what happened
Oh,
next.
no. I bet as soon as he found out it was all a sham.
He relapsed almost immediately.
That is both fascinating and kind of terrifying, all at the same time. If our minds have that much influence on our physical selves, what does it say about how we understand health and healing in general?
It definitely challenges our traditional ways of thinking, that's for sure.
It really does. And to think we've only just started to scratch the surface of this whole biopsy thing, this idea that we might be capable of so much more than we realize. I don't know about you, but I'm finding it all a little intimidating.
Intimidating, sure, but incredibly exciting, too.
True. So where do we go from here? What other mysteries of the mind-body connection are we going to uncover?
Well, next up, we're diving into the strange world of cellular memory. And let me tell you, things are about to get really weird.
Cellular memory. Oh boy, that sounds intriguing. I can't wait.
So cellular memory, it's a bit of a tricky subject,
Yeah.
kind of controversial, but it's one that Cobbin really digs into.
Yeah, I can see why. It's one of those things that, depending on who you talk to, people either dismiss it completely or they're like totally on board. So remind me, what are we talking about when we say cellular memory?
Well, the basic idea is that our cells, they might actually hold on to memories, experiences, maybe even bits of personality long after, whatever happened is over, like way after.
Okay, wait a minute. Now that is starting to sound like something out of science fiction.
Mm.
Are we talking about past lives here?
Right.
Like our organs carrying around echoes from someone else's existence?
Not quite past lives. It's more like, think of it as echoes of past experiences, but within this lifetime. And one of the areas where this gets really interesting is in the world of organ transplantation.
Organ transplants. Whoa. Okay. Yeah, that definitely falls under the biopsy umbrella. You mean to tell me that if someone gets a heart transplant, they could potentially start having memories or taking on personality traits from the donor?
I know. It sounds crazy, right? But there are some pretty compelling stories out there. Anecdotal, of course, but still. Cobbin talks about this researcher, Paul Pearsall, who did a lot of work on this whole idea of what he called acquisition of donor traits in transplant recipients.
Acquisition of donor traits. Okay, yeah, now that is just wild. What are we talking about here? Like major personality shifts.
Sometimes, yeah. Pearsall's team, they interviewed 10 people who had received heart transplants, and every single one of them said they experienced some pretty significant changes after surgery. Changes that, get this, seemed to match up with the personalities of their donors.
Whoa, seriously. Every single one.
Yeah.
Okay, so what kind of changes, like, what are we talking about here?
Well, it varied. Some people said they suddenly craved foods they couldn't stand before, or they got super into new hobbies they'd never cared about. Even career aspirations, things like that.
You're kidding. That is wild. But, I mean, couldn't those just be coincidences? People change, right?
Yeah.
Especially after going through something as major as a transplant.
True, and that's something researchers always have to think about. But some of the stuff Pearsall documented, it gets eerily specific.
Oh. Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so there's this one story about a young woman, Danielle, who got a heart transplant from a young man named Paul. After the surgery, she starts having these super vivid dreams about him, and she feels this really strong connection to him, almost like she's known him her whole life.
Wow, I bet. That must have been really intense for her. But couldn't that just be her mind, trying to process everything, make sense of this life-altering experience she'd been through?
It's definitely possible, but it gets weirder. Danielle's mom, she mentioned later that Paul, the donor, he was a musician. So they decide to play some of his music for Danielle, just to see. And get this, she starts humming along, even finishing phrases, like she knew the music. But here's the thing. Danielle, she'd never played any instruments before the transplant.
Wait, hold on a sec. Are you serious? She starts playing music after getting his heart.
Well, not playing exactly, but yeah, she felt drawn to it after the transplant, especially to the guitar, which just so happened to be the instrument Paul played.
Oh, wow. Okay, that is definitely giving me chills. I don't know how you could explain that away as just coincidence.
It makes you wonder, right? And cellular memory is just one piece of this whole puzzle. Cobbin, he goes on to talk about microchimerism too.
Micro... What? Okay, you're going to have to break that one down for me.
So microchimerism, it's actually totally natural, happens all the time, especially during pregnancy.
Yeah.
So basically, cells can be passed back and forth between a mother and her fetus through the placenta.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes sense.
But what's really wild is that some of those cells, they can actually stick around in the mother's body long after pregnancy, like way after, even in her brain.
Wait, seriously, so little pieces of another person can literally become a part of us?
That's what it looks like. And some researchers believe those cells, they might even end up integrated into the mother's nervous system.
Whoa. Okay, now that is mind-blowing and kind of makes you rethink that whole nature versus nurture debate, doesn't it? If we're carrying around bits and pieces of other people, literally within our very selves.
It's true. It really makes you wonder, especially if you consider the idea that consciousness, maybe it's not just limited to our brains, maybe it exists at the cellular level too. Who knows what impact those foreign cells, as we call them, might have on our thoughts, our emotions, even our sense of self.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind here. It's like there's this whole other level of connection we're just beginning to understand. Like, what does it even mean to be an individual if we're all interconnected in these hidden ways? And speaking of interconnectedness, that reminds me, didn't Cobbin also talk about the work of Cleve Baxter?
Oh, yeah. The plant guy. He's got a place in Cobbin's book, that's for sure.
Okay, so for our listeners who might not be familiar with his work, Baxter was the guy who hooked up a lie detector test to a plant, right?
That's the one. Hard to forget that image.
A lie detector test on a plant. I mean, come on. What in the world made him think to do that?
You have to kind of admire Baxter's out-of-the-box thinking.
True. It's not every day you come across someone who decides to give a polygraph test to a houseplant.
Well, he was a polygraph expert, and he got this idea to start measuring the electrical responses of living things, not just to questions like you would with a person, but to different kinds of stimuli, just to see what would happen.
So it started with plants, and then it just kind of escalated.
You could say that. He started experimenting with living cells, too.
Like from a person.
Yeah. He'd take a sample of white blood cells from someone, put those cells in a completely different room, sometimes even miles away, and then he'd show the donor, the person those cells came from, all these emotionally charged pictures, just like in Rannon's experiments.
Okay, now that is wild. I have to know what happened. Did the cells react?
Hold on to your hat, because this is where it gets really interesting. Baxter, he found that right at the moment, the donor was reacting to a picture, having an emotional response. Their isolated blood cells, the ones miles away, they would show this measurable electrical change at the exact same time, as if they were still connected somehow, like they were sharing in the experience.
No way. Wait, are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
So he's basically saying that our cells can communicate telepathically
Yeah.
across distances.
That's exactly what his research seemed to point to. He even gave it a name for it, primary perception. This idea that all living things have this inherent awareness, this ability to connect and communicate on a deeper level.
Wow, primary perception. It really makes you wonder if those old sayings, things like, I could feel it in my bones or I have a gut feeling, if those are more than just expressions.
Exactly. Maybe our language, it's actually hinting at these deeper truths about ourselves, truths we're only beginning to rediscover. And, Cobbin, he doesn't stop there. He even connects this whole idea of universal consciousness, this deeper level of awareness, to something as seemingly ordinary as protein folding.
Protein folding. Okay, now that doesn't exactly sound as exciting as telepathic houseplants, but I'm listening. How does protein folding fit into all of this?
So remember how proteins are like the building blocks of our bodies, and they have to fold into these very specific, super precise three-dimensional shapes to do their jobs.
Okay, yeah, I remember something about that from biology class. They're like little machines inside our cells, right?
Yeah.
Carrying out all sorts of essential tasks.
Exactly. But here's the thing. There are like an astronomical number of ways a protein could fold.
Right.
But somehow they always seem to figure out the right way to do it, and they do it incredibly quickly.
So what's the problem? Seems like proteins really have their act together.
The problem is that from a scientific standpoint, no one can quite figure out how they do it with such amazing accuracy and speed. If you were to calculate the odds of a protein randomly trying out every possible fold until it finds the right one, it would take longer than the entire age of the universe.
Okay, yeah, that doesn't add up. There's got to be something else going on, something more than just random chance. Is that where this whole biopsy idea comes in? Is Cobbin suggesting that consciousness is somehow influencing the way proteins fold?
That's precisely what he's suggesting. As far-fetched as it might sound, the idea of consciousness operating at a fundamental level could explain why our current models of biology struggle to make sense of how efficiently proteins do their thing.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, you're saying that our consciousness, our thoughts, beliefs, and intentions, they're not just limited to our brains. They could actually be shaping the very molecules that make up our bodies.
It's a pretty profound concept, isn't it? And it circles back to the core theme we see throughout Cobbin's book, that consciousness isn't just this thing happening inside our heads. It could be this fundamental force woven into the fabric of reality, influencing everything from our cells to the universe itself.
Wow. That is a lot to wrap your head around. We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. We started with the idea that our cells might actually be able to sense the future, and we ended up in a place where consciousness itself might be the guiding force behind the very building blocks of life. It's both awe-inspiring and a little bit terrifying all at the same time.
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? We like to think we have it all figured out, but then we stumble upon these mysteries, these hints that there's so much more to the story of who we are than we ever imagined.
And the most exciting part is that this is just the beginning of our exploration. As we continue to delve deeper into the mysteries of biosci, who knows what incredible discoveries await us?
Only time will tell, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a wild ride.
That's for sure. And on that note, we're going to have to wrap things up for today. But don't worry, we'll be back soon to continue our exploration of this and other mind-expanding topics. Until then, keep those minds open and those questions coming.